Welcome to UnitedGP, the simulation F1 game that's just come out. And this is just a brief review as well as a look at the basics of the game, get you a feel for how things work. And I'll throw in a few tips along the way for those of you just starting out or want to try the game. Here is my car. As you can see, I'm level 12 here, so I've been playing for a little bit, just a few days. Basically, there's a starting point, no matter what. There's a tutorial that goes through things, gives you an idea of the mechanics of the game. And by mechanics, I mean the game mechanics, not the car mechanics, although you'll learn some about that too. Here we're in the garage. Just give you an idea of the different parts. This is the pieces that you'll upgrade as you level up. Mounting them after you've produced them, and I'll get to production in a second. Everything from the engine to wings to steering column to braking. And each level, as you advance through the game, you'll get access to more advanced components, and you can replace the old ones. So in this case, if you see something that you're short on, these things do wear out. A couple races or so, it seems they last. You can go into production, pick the component that you want to build. As you can see on the right, start production. And it can take a little bit of time, 14 minutes, 28 minutes to build. But like I said, you don't have to replace every part, every race. They usually last for a few. So it's a good thing that while you're racing to have something produced in the background. You can produce one at a time initially, but for stars, and you'll see the blue box up at the top, a 770 in it, that's the amount of stars you have. That's sort of the currency, or the special currency, you can say, of this game, like the gold and some other games. You can get a second production unit or a second engineer or what have you, so you can make two things at once. It's very much worth it, especially early on. And after we've got our car set up, we move into the setup screen. After we built our parts in the production and applied them in the garage, we go to setup. Here what we do is you adjust the wings, and suspension and the balance of the car. I guess later on you get that. You take it for a test drive, and your driver gives you some feedback and suggests what to do. So you just listen to his feedback and adjust accordingly. Each trial run costs a little bit more in whatever, I guess it's coins, and you can see up on the top the C with a black circle. So here I'm just adjusting the rear wing a little bit. When it's flat, it means it needs more of an angle. So the rear wing goes up to a 60-degree angle. So now he's saying the front wing is a little flat too. So I'll itch them both up a little bit and try another run. And this one should be fine. Oh, it's still a little flat, and that's still flat. And I'll itch them up again. So this is basically what you're going to do every time you change tires or try it. I shouldn't say every time you try a new race. You're going to want to go through these steps, and the reason why is if you'll notice, beside the underneath practice sessions, you'll see the 4 boxes there with a 5, a star, and you'll see rain and a blue circle with a star in it. That is the type of tire. And if you'll notice in the upper left, Albert Park, 22 degrees and raining, this is the type of track I'll be racing on. So here we'll move over into the pit stop strategy session. Most important thing here is the tires, which I've already set. But basically how this works is you choose the tires that you want for that particular race. Blue ones are for wet or rain, as you can see. And these are the expensive ones with a star in it. And you can adjust accordingly. This basically means that what pit stop or what lap will your crew change the tires for you. This is a 7-lap race. I'm not really sure if they get much longer than 7 laps. I imagine they probably do. But since this thing only shows 7 laps, if you can notice there, it says lap 3 and 7. You want to change on the 3rd or the 4th lap at the latest, because tires tend to wear out after 4 laps in this. So I guess it's like a condensed version of the F1 where you wouldn't really have to change after 4 laps. It would probably be 100. So you get some power-ups, and each level you have access to more advanced power-ups, and they become more expensive. You can see this one, Iron Man, Lifelong Oil. They just give you, in this case, a 40-second buff, and this will help you immensely, especially things like steering and cornering, increased top speed. But as in this one, you can see there's a downside to using it as well. The cheaper ones, you can go through them multiple times in a race to keep the cost down. However, the more expensive ones cost you stars. In this case, this is the buying window for them. So you can go through them, scroll, and you can see the more expensive ones, or the higher level ones, will cost you stars instead of coins. So you want to use them somewhat sparingly. But if you're in a race and things are tight and you want to overtake, say, first place and you're in second, it's worth it. Otherwise, this type of thing is you want to basically keep them up when you can, but remember that the downside, things like tire durability loss. So if you overuse them, you're going to damage the car or damage the tires, and it's really going to affect you on the last few laps of the race. So you can see in the bottom left the power-ups that are active. It's basically confirming now I want to enter the race, so it's just giving me a once over everything. And the power-ups you have active, at level 12 I have access to 3, early on I'll have access to 2. And this now is the qualifying. So you do 1 lap, and this can take a few seconds. The game's early, new, so maybe still working out some bugs, but I've had a few times where this has just gone on forever, and I've never actually gone into the race, or at least visually gone into the race. The race still happened, but I couldn't watch it, I couldn't participate in it. But it seems to be better the last day or so, so that's good news. But it can still take a few seconds, I guess, for all the drivers to join. And yes, this is a multiplayer game, so the people you're waiting for are actually other real human beings, not just computer-generated cars and teams. And for me, my race is to finish, my target is to finish first, and I get a reward of 2,000 coins. That's kind of tough. Usually, for me at least, it's been finishing the top 2 or 3 to get that bonus. But in my case, I have a feeling I'm going to do pretty well. And so as you can see, this is the qualifying lap. I am the blue circle, AT. My driver, A. Tietkens. I have no control over that, so it's an automatically generated name, as well as the flag or the shield or whatnot, and my country. But you can control the name of your car and the name of your team. So far, as you see on the left side, the top times are listed from the top to the bottom, and so far I'm in first. If you look down, you see the flashing 1+1 extra lap. So for 50 stars, you can take another shot at it, and lots of players will do this if they didn't finish in the top 2 or 3, or in this case, so the number 2 guy is going for it. And I know that because if you look on the left side, you'll see a star instead of the time. That means he's trying to get an extra qualifying lap in. So for me, I just look through my pit stop strategies and whatnot in the lower right corner. Underneath that, you see the buffs that I have and the number available. There's 3 of them. And so it may seem, if you're watching this now, to be rather boring as a spectator. And I can assure you, yes, if you're watching someone else's car, these circles whip around a track, it wouldn't seem all that exciting. But it gets a lot more interesting when you're actually in the race. So there we go. I did finish first, qualifying. So now we go right onto the race automatically. And so from my experience so far, that when I first started the game, I didn't really know how the actual race would go. If you're actually watching it from the car, or you actually were driving it yourself. So when this came up and I saw these little dots going around, I thought, oh, this is going to be exciting. What am I going to sit here for an entire race and watch my dot go around the screen? But because it's your car, and it's a lot more interesting. It might be like watching a horse race or something. When you've got money on the horse, it becomes a lot more exciting. So if you'll notice, I'm the number 1 car, and I'm in first place. I'm switching tactics now. And the reason I'm doing that is you'll see a shield come up in the bottom right beside Pitt. And what that means is I'm doing a blocking maneuver to try to prevent 2 from getting by me. And you can see there's some downside, but he's far enough behind now, I don't think he's going to pass me, so I turn that off and go back to a balanced approach. And the flashing symbol, you'll see it actually on the screen when you see the numbers flashing. So the screen's sort of hiccuping there a little bit. That's just a message to you and everybody else that you're either changing a strategy, or in the case of, and you'll see this a lot, which almost looks like a sideways tooth. Number 2's doing it right now. That means he's had some kind of problem. That could be the driver didn't brake properly, or he switched gears wrong. And if you'll notice live ticker, when it happens to me, if it does happen, there it does. So he says Tietgen's car swerves a little bit. And that sort of usually could be something that's going to cost you time. And in some cases, if you really mess up or you blow a tire or something, then it's going to be a catastrophic thing. So after the 3rd lap, as I specified, I took my pit stop, changed my tires. And as you can see, as I mentioned before with the tires, these are the premium tires, the blue circles with the blue stars inside. And I went for this strategy because for me, if you win the race, you win 5,000 coins, and that's more than enough to buy yourself the premier tires. So I would always suggest at all times going with the premier tires, but be very, very conscious of what kind of race it is and the track, most specifically the weather conditions. If it's raining, then you want tires for wet conditions. If not, then the normal tires. But always use the best tires available. And here I am. Now, something's going to, number 1 is not taking a pit stop, and he's not doing it again. And I can guarantee you, even though he's far off in the lead right now, he's dead in the water. I'm going to catch him here in about 5 seconds, and he is going to, his car is going to, either his tires are going to blow or something's going to happen. I haven't had it happen to me, but if you don't take a pit stop, at least by the 4th lap, you're going to be done. Your race is going to be over. So as you can see, I'm just overtaking him badly. He won't even finish 2nd or 3rd or 4th. He's done for the day. As you can see, the car is probably having catastrophic failure right now. It's on the last lap. And as you can see, he's number 3 now, and Roper. Keep an eye on him. You're going to see what's going to happen. So he's falling back and falling back and falling back. And I'm so far ahead right now, I can probably walk to the finish line. So if you're wondering what my strategy or secret formula is here, is pretty simple. Always make sure you use the latest upgraded parts. And like I said, every level you get access to new and improved components. Immediately build them and put them in your car. And use the best tires at all time. And every time you switch a race, you see Albert Park up in the upper left corner, that's the race we're doing now. And you see 11 hours and 9 minutes. That means for the next 11 hours in real time, that'll be the track that we're racing. It doesn't sort of switch back and forth. It's always the same track until it switches to a new one. So for the next 11 hours, I'll keep the wet, if I'm racing again further today, I'll keep on the wet tires until a new track comes up and the conditions change. And so I don't need to tweak them. But if tonight, or 11 hours from now, if it switches to a different kind of track and it's dry conditions, and yeah, you saw there when I scrolled down, he finished last. So that's what happens when you don't pit stop, you die. But no, if you are in a position where you're having to test the car constantly, then you're going to spend a lot of money. As you notice back on that screen, when I was doing those little laps, and every time it got incrementally more. You don't need to do it every time, every race. Just when you switch to a new track, you want to go in, have your driver test things out, even if you haven't changed anything on the car, and just to make sure that he approves, and that way you're going to get the best performance out of the car. And here I am just switching up some pieces. If you notice there, the bodywork was showing a yellow bar underneath it, which means it's starting to get worn out. I wouldn't wait. As soon as you see a component on yellow, replace it with a new one. So now I'm producing producing one right now, and I'm just checked to see if there's any other components I don't have a backup ready, and then I'll produce them in the meantime. So this is basically it. Now you will notice here, this is the engine, and there's two different engine types. They're both tier 6, and they're both slightly different. I say they're both slightly different. They're slightly different to each other in terms of the type of performance they'll give you. Some maybe it might be faster, but poorer on sometimes acceleration and vice versa. So you can experiment with the different kinds of engines to see what works for you. And as I'm describing that, you have, of course, some ranking boards. You can see where you rank. And your class basically means your racing class. You start out as rookie, then move to advanced, and to, I think, as professional and legendary and a few other things. And so that's basically the game in a nutshell. Again, if you're watching the video, you might be thinking, well, it doesn't look all that exciting to me. And if not participating or driving the car is basically a deal breaker for you, then fine, this game probably isn't for you. But if you just like the strategy and to be able to just sit back and make all the plans, and during the game itself or during the race itself, although you may not be driving the car, you can switch strategies and implement strategies to block, for example, or if you're trying to pass, you can implement a passing strategy. If you saw when I was demonstrating, I was trying to block out number 2 temporarily. There is strategy in the game, and you can use your buffs. I didn't use any buffs this last time because I didn't need any. I was so far ahead of the rest of the pack that it wasn't even, I didn't need to use things like driver focused or cornering abilities and things like that, because why bother? It was just, I was winning. If I was in a case where I was in second or third place and for the bonus I needed to finish first and I thought I had a shot at it, then I start throwing down the buffs. And you can use them all in succession. You can use one by itself. You can, as soon as they're done, you can use them again as long as you have enough of them in stock. There's no cooldown. It's just that it's going to cost. It's going to get expensive, and you have to weigh that versus the price of winning the race. And lastly here, yes, as I've already started looking at the different colors, so yes, you can give it a different design, and these unlock at later levels. But because my car is called Ghost, white's kind of appropriate. And although I don't believe there is a second car available for the game, I wish there was. My obvious preference would be to call the other one Darkness and make him black. Kind of silly, but I went with it. So there you have it, UnitedGP. Good game.